Rush real quick.
Fantastic.
All right, are we live?
We are. We are, my friend.
I see it. Awesome.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm not sure, afternoon, evening, morning. I'm not sure where people are coming from. Hello from Italy. This is fantastic. So, yeah, Roberto, it's good to have you here.
Good to be here, Paul.
And we'll keep an eye on the basically the chat or comments. Hello from Italy. That's kind of what I'm reading off, by the way.
James, hello to everybody in the UK.
Yeah, we got Chris, Emanuela. That's a beautiful name.
It is.
I like it. Alessandro, Andrea. So, and the cool thing about, Roberto, the cool thing about, doing these live events is we get to interact with everyone. So
I'm getting a lot more into that. It's been great hanging out with you live, having the back and forth, but also checking out everybody's cool comments.
Yeah, exactly. And, just to be able to answer questions. So I know you and we're going to have a good time. We've already been chatting for a while. Yeah. And so I'm really looking forward to this. And so I think everybody else should be as well. Hello from Belgium and the UK, of course. Salzburg, Amsterdam's in the house. So yes, Sarah couldn't make it. Sorry about that. Don't know what to say, but things happen. Whatever. All I know is I've spent some time with Roberto. It was like 2 weeks ago for Photoshop.
Was it 2 weeks ago or was it a week ago? Time flies.
It was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, like a week. Yeah, it wasn't last week. Week before last. Essentially on we had a Photoshop Live event, and you were one of our guests, and you were fantastic.
Thank you so much. It was great hanging out with you, Nathaniel, and Cody.
Yeah, super cool. So yeah, it's great stuff. So, and I'm glad you get to bring that here, more like condensed version, the top 5 ways to boost your personal brand with Roberto Blake. And You got it.
And we'll be doing more live stuff with Photoshop Live again next weekend.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, super fun, and yeah, you've done some of it, and obviously you're on YouTube plenty as it is, which is cool, obviously. And what is your YouTube URL on?
YouTube.com/Roberto Blake 2, as in the number 2.
All right, there you go. Boom.
Yeah, you'll see my smiling face, my Kango hats, and my 800 plus videos. Eesh.
Yeah, awesome. How long have you been streaming on YouTube? Or posting videos?
So I, like everybody's been on YouTube forever and a day, but I always tell people, look, I started doing YouTube seriously about 3 years ago. And by seriously, I mean putting out consistent, intentional content instead of the random video twice a year that I used to do. So
okay. Did you get on a schedule of I'm gonna produce a video a week? Is that what you
Yes, I did. That's exactly what I did. Toward the end of July of 2013, I started with weekly Photoshop tutorials. Photoshop is one of my top 3 strongest Adobe software, Premiere Pro being the other one. It's arguable which one's number 1 and which one's number 2. So
gotcha.
Thursday tutorials was where I started, kept that up consistently, added content, found out that a lot of people actually liked the occasional random video where I talked about design and creative career stuff and they had questions. That ended up being so popular and so interesting to answer people's questions, to help people, that I expanded. And I still do tutorials, but I do a lot more educational content around how-to that helps people in whatever creative field they're in.
Gotcha. Are you so more general subjects, not to say how to be creative, but essentially how to be more creative? Those type of subjects have been more successful for you, or?
A lot of those have, but it's actually a lot more focused than that. And I have a really interesting 7-day-a-week format. So Mondays, I'll do videos that are either graphic design, art, and general creativity, more with a focus on design. And that could be design, or it could be web design, because that I got started with HTML coding when I was 13 back in the 90s. Notepad. We didn't even have Adobe Go Live or Dreamweaver just yet. Mm-hmm. I got those in college. So that's old school for me. So I still talk about those topics. That's very popular for a lot of people. A lot of people are just trying to get their start in putting together a website because they need it for their personal brand, stuff we're going to be talking about. Tuesdays, it's all about tech. You need a lot of hardware and software to do the things that we do. And so I talk about, well, what do you need and why, and how can you do it on a budget? What's expensive, what's cheap, what's new. Wednesdays, it's all about photography and video production, man. Stuff we're going to get into here. What camera gear do you need? What accessories? How can you do this affordably? What cameras are the best one? DSLR, camcorder, GoPro, camera phone. What do you do? Thursdays is more of the software tutorials. Friday is YouTube tips and video marketing. Saturdays, social media or small business. And then Sundays are for me. Sundays are vlogs, live streams, adventures, stuff like that. And whatever I want to do.
That's awesome. So when you say you're doing, say, social media on a Thursday or something, you're not really producing a video that day, but you're working on social media aspects of your business.
Well, actually, I'm putting out a video. I do my production in advance. One of the tips that I can give you guys outside of the personal brand aspect of this is that when you're making your video content, especially for something like YouTube, where consistency is so important and so underestimated, I recommend shooting all your stuff in advance as much as possible and batch recording and batch editing. A lot of the content I do, I shot a month ago or 2 months ago, and then it's released to people and they, I tell them, I'm upfront about it, but it's like, I do what television does, man. I produce a lot of my content, especially since it's how to. I'm not a daily vlogger. I don't have to produce a video every day. I can shoot 8 videos for Mondays in a single hour-and-a-half session, and then edit those throughout the week, set them, and forget them.
Yeah, so you, essentially you might shoot on Monday, and then, obviously you're editing later on, but you sometimes you have content that might not be time sensitive. So you can release that at your own pace if you want.
Exactly,
on that
and then
Thursday.
that frees me up. That frees me up when something interesting happens, like when the GoPro Karma was announced, and when the DJI Mavic was announced, to be able to do something the next day and put it out. It gave me that opportunity, and that did very well for me. Or when Apple releases stuff, if I don't have anything in my personal life that's disruptive right there, then because I have all this other stuff done in advance, knocking out a 5 or 10 minute video in one take, editing that for 15 or 20 minutes, setting it up and releasing and promoting it, it's cake. I don't have to spend 40 hours a week like a regular job on any of my content or any of the things that I do. And that means that I get to focus a lot on my own creativity, on running my business, on educating myself. And I get to spend a lot of time doing live streaming and engaging with my community and being in Twitter a lot, doing personalized Twitter videos just to say thank you to people. I get to do that stuff because I'm not taking a super amount of time day to day to do all the other stuff.
Okay, cool. So that's good. And I think, again, you have to be disciplined as well. And that's probably, that's kind of what I'm gathering from you is there's nothing pushing you to release a video a week, really.
Or in my case, every day.
Or every day. There's nothing pushing. There's no boss above you saying, hey, you got that video done yet?
Nope.
It's the boss inside of you.
It's me, the best and worst boss I've ever had. Gives very few vacation days, forget a raise, but you know what? He's really good on giving an equipment allowance. So
the equipment is nice. So yeah, and that's what I'd like to cover this next. We have 45 minutes. I want to talk about some hardware briefly. I want to talk about software, and I want to talk about social media personally. But you also have 5 tips too, so you could I don't know. That's the stuff that I'm hoping that is sort of in the mix.
We'll get it in. We'll get it all in, Paul.
Oh, good. Fun. And I know you should have Premiere Pro up right now, which is fantastic.
I do. Yep. I'm an old school Premiere Pro fan, dude. I was using Premiere back in Adobe Premiere 6.0. I worked for a wedding photographer and videographer that hooked me up with that, and I learned how to use it myself before there was YouTube.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So, and you're right. So, because I remember using it on the Mac in 96. And then we didn't have it on the Mac, and then it came back to the Mac. But essentially, yes, it's nice to know that it's been been around a while, and obviously you have a good handle on it. What are you using to shoot this? I'm also seeing some live footage in what we have here. What did you shoot that with?
So the live footage is on, well, actually, I'll tell you a little bit about my equipment real quick. So I shoot most of my YouTube content and I'll just like play this in the background for people with no audio. And this is a motivational short film about creativity that I did, but I shot this using my Nikon D3200. Now, this is the camera that I really kind of relaunched my YouTube channel, doing it weekly content with, which at the time was like about a $750 camera with a kit lens. Today, this camera new is like $350. So you can make that mowing lawns if you're a young person. If you're a designer, you can come by that relatively easier or a photographer. So for $350, you can get the same camera that took me from 0 to about 140, 50,000 subscribers in YouTube, is a less than $500 camera with a lens. The lens I'm using for this footage, though, is what we call a prime lens. It's a 35 millimeter f1.8, which is how you get that blurred background. You get shallow depth of field. I think I was shooting at like f2.2 or f2.8 for that here in the office. And so you can get a knockoff of that lens for $80 or the 50 millimeter for like $80. I bought the actual one from Nikon, and it, does autofocusing instead of manual. So that was $200. So again, still my kit just for my basic camera, about $550. Recently, I got a 4K camera. It's the Panasonic Lumix G7. That was $100. Shoots 4K video, flip out screen, touch screen.
Okay, and I guess a tip for both of us, by the way, is just that we need to probably speak a little slower since we have an international audience, which is really fun. Somebody from South Africa. So we'll speak a little slower, us crazy, chatty Americans. But you just to recap on a very basic level as I'm taking notes. So at a basic level, you need a camera that shoots 1080p or captures 1080p video with a prime lens, essentially. Is that correct?
Yes. For doing talking head style, interview style videos, if you use a basic DSLR camera or even a mirrorless camera with a prime lens, either a 35 millimeter lens or a 50 millimeter lens, you could also do an 85 millimeter lens. That's going to be the basic thing you need to get this type of video.
Cool.
If you want to do something like product photography or and videography and macro shots, like maybe you're doing product reviews, I would recommend a 105 millimeter lens, and that will do very well for you.
Cool. All right, so we have hardware covered. Awesome. You obviously have everything here in Premiere Pro. Fantastic.
And I'm also using Adobe Stock for some of my B-roll footage.
Very cool.
Most of it, actually.
Okay, so yes. And for those of you who don't know, obviously Adobe Stock, you can go to stock.adobe.com, has a video now, even 4K video as well, which is super cool if you need to go that high. So yeah, that's where you're getting your sources from, Adobe Stock, and then capturing your own video, maybe doing screen recordings as well. Are you doing, yes. What are you using to screen record? I'm also kind of curious.
So I've used a lot of software in the past for screen recording, but what I found that I like, since you guys don't have a native screen recorder in Premiere Pro, I use CyberLink Power Director 15 to do my screen recording. I've used other things in the past like Camtasia. I've used also Cam Studio. That was a free Windows program, but I found that that's not as compatible with Windows 10 now. And I've also used DVD Soft has something called free screen recorder, and that works out well too. But if you need something free, you can also use OBS, Open Broadcast System, and that works really well, especially if you also want to capture face cam while you're doing your screen recording, and that's what we're doing with our live streaming. So those are some options to do that.
Yeah, and there's plenty, you're right, there's plenty of things out there. Even, again, you could just use QuickTime Pro if you're on a Mac.
Actually, you don't even need QuickTime Pro. You can just use regular QuickTime and it screen records.
Oh.
And that also will screen record from your Apple devices, QuickTime, including your iPhone and your iPad. When I need to do mobile app recording, though, I use an app called Reflector, which I think you've used that before, and I know Terry White has.
Yeah.
So Reflector is a good app for recording from your iPad or your iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
It'll also work with Android too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and QuickTime you don't even need. I like Reflector, but you can actually QuickTime will actually, if you plug your device in by USB, it'll actually pick it up.
Now, there is one issue with doing QuickTime, and that is sometimes variable frame rate. And what that means is sometimes QuickTime will not record at a consistent frame rate depending on what your setup is. So just be aware that that could have issues with audio syncing and other things you might want to do in post editing. If you're going to do it all in real time and not edit, that's one thing and you'll be okay there. But if you need to do editing and take that footage from QuickTime into Premiere Pro, there could be some potential audio syncing issues, or you might have to just use it as screen record footage and then do a voiceover after the fact.
Yeah,
that's something I ran into on my iMac.
Chris asks, about making money on Adobe Stock and sharing your content, and that's pretty cool too, by the way, because since you're talking about capturing footage, yes, you could actually become a contributor to Adobe Stock, and that's brand new as of June, which is really pretty cool.
I actually was a beta tester for the contributor portal, and I'm an Adobe Stock contributor myself. I've been uploading some of my footage from when I was at Cedar Point and I was at the beach. So I'm hoping that that gets released soon and that people can use that if it came out well. I'm also, I'm getting into, I haven't bought one yet, but I'm getting into drones and doing all my research. I'm about to either get next month, either the DJI Mavic Pro or the GoPro Karma. One of those will be my first real drone, and I'll be using that to get footage that I'll be uploading to Adobe Stock and that I'll be using in my videos.
Ah, it's a little drone footage. I like it. Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Boom. Hello from Luton, England. So, and as you guys can see, by the way, Roberto, everything you say, I've been trying to place notes on the screen. The open source software is OBS. Yeah, so we got that. So essentially we've used a camera to capture that, brought it in, screen capture software to capture what we need to there, which is super cool. And then obviously you're doing your editing in Premiere Pro, as we can see.
And when I use my phone, I'm using Premiere Clip to do my mobile editing. I do a vlog series, which it used to be a seasonal kind of thing where I would do it in August and April for vlog every day in August and vlog every day in April. But I've decided to make it an ongoing series and just do seasons thematically. And it's a series called Dear Entrepreneurs. It's a vlog where, see, not everyone, this is a great tip for you guys about developing your personal brand. Not everybody will have the most exciting life in the world. I work a lot and I love what I do because, like I said, best and worst boss in the world. But I spend a lot of time in front of my computer. I spend a lot of time in Photoshop and Premiere, or I'm out shooting footage, or I'm goofing around with my friends. And it's not the most interesting vlog stuff in the world. You know, I'm just a big old art and sci-fi nerd, so not a lot of fun vlogging activities. And when I travel, it's mostly for business. And then in stuff in my personal life, I don't want to really vlog it. But what I do want to talk about on a personal level is like how important I think entrepreneurship is, how much I think is out there for creatives, just like all of you guys. I think that a lot of you have it into you to where you can take the thing that you're passionate about and make it your purpose and make it a full-time business potentially, or at least a substantial living or career. And so I decided to do a vlog series where I just talk about that very honestly and very candidly. And I show you a little bit of behind the scenes of what I might be working on or what I'm going through as an entrepreneur, even when it's rough. Like, you know, well, this is what you do when you have to fire a client after 3 years. You're like, oh, you know, this is what you do when you miss a deadline and you have to apologize for it, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So that's good. And sorry to get distracted a little bit, but Sean Vaughn wants to get right to the point. He's like, so what are the 5 ways to use video to boost your personal brand?
I love it.
We can start clicking through it right now. Let's get it started.
Yeah, I love it. Straight to the point. So one of the things that I will definitely say about that is you have to really have a theory for what you're going to be about. And the reason I brought up that not everyone will be super interesting is one way is definitely to document your life experiences. If you are doing things that are very interesting, or you think you can communicate them in an interesting way to a very specific or a niche audience, then I would say document your life. A lot of people struggle, well, Roberto, what content should I make? Or what should I do? Or should I do tutorials? Should I do this type of video? Should I do that type of video? Documenting your experience actually is a great way to build a personal relationship with people. And that can be great for your personal brand if it's something that matters to you, especially if you're a photographer or you're a fine artist. Doing some stuff in a vlog or documentary style about your process and about who you are and why this matters to you, what your journey as a creative is like, that could matter to people and that could be great for your personal brand. But I would also balance that against content that shows that you are an expert at something. So I would say content that shows that you know about photography, or you know about filmmaking, or you know about Photoshop, either in the form of tutorials or how to advice videos, or even just demonstrating what you do, like we do with Photoshop Live, with YouTube and Twitch. You're showing your body of work. You're doing it in a meaningful and interesting way, and you're presenting it. So I would say you can document your life if it's interesting enough, or and make it personable. And you can also use content that shows you're an expert or a subject matter expert. And if you're not, you can also just show the process of the journey of learning. I'm not a master of 4K video, but I've decided that 4K video isn't mainstream yet. So documenting my successes and failures with it and what I learned is valuable to a viewing audience. And as I progress to mastery, that gives me even more credibility because I'm not an overnight success. And it shows the work. So that could be important. But what about the people who aren't comfortable on camera? That's where screen recording tutorials can be very nice, but there are other things you can do. Adobe Spark is fantastic for people who aren't comfortable on camera because you can make concepts and you can get ideas out and you can do voiceovers and still present in video and take advantage of what video has to offer using the skills of a radio personality or a podcaster. So if you're not comfortable on camera, that's an option. A third option is tell other people's stories. If you know other people that have an interesting story, you have mentors in your life that you think their advice would be helpful to somebody else, you can do documentary stuff around them. You can showcase them. You can go to events and you can do perspective stuff like that. You can put together something conceptual. So you can either document an experience kind of almost from a first person point of view, just showing what this is like, or you can interview people and you can tell their story or show behind the scenes of what they're doing. And that can help you out as well and build your credibility. You can also use it to build your network and get more access to people because they want their stories out there. You could get to like some of the like most amazing people that you could imagine just by offering to share their story. So, that's number 3. 4, for your personal brand, community-driven content. That's what we're doing right now. We have you guys. We're not just, talking at the camera and dictating. We're answering your questions. We're engaging with you. We're reading your commentary. We're taking feedback, and we're pivoting where you guys want to go. You guys wanted to get straight to the 5 tips. That's what we're doing right now. So that's what tip number 4 is maybe you do community-driven content. You do Q&A videos. You can do a live stream. You can do a live stream and let people participate in guiding your work. Like I'd love to do a Photoshop where you guys literally pick and make decisions about the direction that the artwork goes and what it takes. And maybe even doing that with the same image and letting you guys make different decisions. We can see what different results are produced collectively. That's something that's cool and engaging, and it gives people stakes. They have skin in the game. So community-driven content can be amazing for your personal brand, because that's how you get rabid fans. That's how you get a loyal following. That's how you get people to share something. That's how you get people to come back, is because it's not just about you. It's now about them as well. And it's engagement. And my fifth tip for using video to develop your personal brand is content that converts. And so what do we mean by that? It means content that drives a very specific call to action or some kind of goal for you. That could be monetary, that could be job opportunities, that could be getting people to join your email list or to become part of your tribe, whatever your goal is. It could be that you are doing this content in the hopes of being discovered and hired by a company that, will be a company that you want to work with, or maybe you want new clients. So making content that's driven like that, maybe you do a video on something that shows your expertise that has the goal of attracting clients. Like if you did a video like I did a while back on how much does logo design cost? And then some other phrasing after that. Guess what? Now all of a sudden, people who are watching that are interested potentially in getting a logo design done, which means you have people that could reach out to you or that you could reach out to that have an interest in that and can hire you. That's content that's set up to convert. If you have a new book or you have a short film that you're doing, guess what? You want people to watch that because that's awareness of your brand. That's people who are going to spread your message, and that could lead to other opportunities for you. If you're a public speaker, putting out a piece of content from your speaker reel or putting out an entire speaking engagement that you did, that could get you other speaking jobs. So that's set up as content meant to convert. It's meant to result in some benefit and direct value for you and not just the audience.
Cool. All right, man. Yeah, you went over all the tips, and I think I actually have them here because people are asking for the list, which I'm about to post. So just like you might be watching the live stream and can
I've seen it.
Tell me if this looks correct as I post it.
And we'll see that here in a second. So, yeah. And I can actually, I think I can copy and paste that into the comments for people as well.
And I think we'll dive into, you kind of clicked through everything, pretty fast, and we probably spoke English way too fast too, like we do, but it's all good. But let's, we'll kind of click through these actually in a little more detail. I think people are going to have questions around these. So I'm going to, now that this content's up, we'll just wait a second and answer questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we're waiting for questions, did you have any thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, I think, as I read it over, I have comments on every single one. I think there's kind of, this is the subject matter, and then there's almost the technical stuff of, like we were talking about, using Premiere Pro and then publishing that stuff out, and whether you use YouTube or Periscope or
Facebook,
all those different platforms, and how do you and don't answer this question, answer it later, because there's other questions rolling through. Mm-hmm. How do you decide which platforms? Are you doing Snapchat? Are you doing Instagram? Moments. Is that right?
Right.
So, anyways, but here's a good thing. Here's a good one. J1302 asks, would you say one of the hardest things is to give yourself permission to be an expert?
Yes, because I think a lot of creative people suffer from imposter syndrome. And the thing is, you don't have to be an expert. Like I said, if nothing else, you can say, well, I'm an expert compared to someone starting from zero or someone who hasn't started at all. And thus, maybe even if I bumble through this, it's valuable to somebody because they can learn from my mistake. giving yourself permission to fail is probably what I would say about that. More than anything is that you have to accept that that's just going to happen. I don't think I've put out a single video that's perfect ever. I don't think I ever will.
Yeah, you're right. And I think, you know, people mention imposter syndrome. And I think the key thing you need to do is just like be honest. And I think just that humbleness is saying, hey, I might not know everything, but this is what I know and this is what has helped me. And I hope it helps you. But
Yeah.
the last thing you could do is be like, hey, I'm awesome. Look at how awesome I am. Like, don't do that. Don't be a tool is my advice.
Exactly. That's why, like, I open my videos with the phrase helping you create something awesome today, because that's about my intention is not to show off. My intention is to say, you know, I've been at some of this stuff from a decade and I'm not perfect, but I did figure some things out that I wish I had known day one. Let me give that to you so that it doesn't take you 10 years to figure it out.
And so I've heard a number of people that do a lot of tutorial videos on YouTube. They do it for themselves so they will remember, and they'll often reference their own videos. So it's also just a good way. You're like, hey, I need to do this for me. Maybe other people will benefit.
You know, it's funny. Pat Flynn from Smart Passive Income, like he ended up actually building a 7-figure business with the beginnings of it just being that he was about to lose his job as an architect. He was a creative. He was an architect. He was he was in San Francisco. They were the firm was about to close down. He got a 3-month heads up of, hey, we're going out of business. So he started trying to get his LEEDs certification, you know, for doing environmentally friendly architecture. He built a blog just documenting all of his notes, realized that, oh my God, I'm getting 10,000 hits a day of traffic. So he monetized it. Then he built a course around it, and he turned documenting his process and his learning experiences into a product that became very lucrative for him and helped start the beginnings of a 7-figure business a couple of years later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, that's really interesting. He just kind of needed to do it for himself, you know, personally, and then so many other people have benefited from it.
Exactly.
Fix this. I'm kind of adding some little notes too on the screen as well.
Sure.
And then let's go back to more questions that have come through. So you make your content for free, yes?
Yeah. Unless I get a sponsor.
Yeah, hey, all about it. It's kind of like goes back to like, what's your motivation? Is your motivation money? Is it to help you remember?
My motivation is I'm going to be dead one day. My motivation is, I mean, if you guys have ever watched Star Wars, a lot of times a Jedi Master or a Sith Lord will leave a holocron of all their lessons and all their teachings so that in a way they live on and their knowledge isn't lost, and that it helps people. My creative career, I love everything that I do and that I've done, but my jobs in working with other people or bosses or people that were non-creative or people that even that were toxic were like really bad. And I wanted to use what I learned to become a creative entrepreneur and also to navigate my career to just give other people more opportunity and an easier time of it. Stuff, again, I wish I'd had 10 or 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so it was very altruistic, but I made it practical because I've always been a hustler. I was drawing comic books by hand at 6 years old and selling them to my classmates. I've always balanced creativity with entrepreneurship and hustle. And so this is the same deal. There's a question here about, well, how do I make money? I literally have God knows how many ways, and I've lost count, ways that I make money. With YouTube, obviously there's AdSense, but I don't rely on that. I used the video marketing and personal branding aspect to grow more of the freelance design stuff and get clients when I was focused on that. Now that I'm doing more marketing and consulting and brand development, the strategic component where you get to charge a lot more money, then I use it for that leverage, public speaking engagements, corporate training, writing opportunities for publications like How in Print, sponsorship with technology and software brands. The list goes on. Affiliate marketing deals. So I have over a dozen ways that I make money. And so I get to do everything I love. And like I said, even now, I'm going to be selling my stock footage in Adobe Stock and in other places. I'm going to make all the money back on that drone within like literally 1 to 3 months. So, I mean, it's a matter of you have to find a way to make it practical. I mean, these are my methods. Not everyone will be comfortable selling things. Not everyone will be comfortable or capable of attracting enough views to make AdSense lucrative. A lot of people ask me, do you make a full-time living as a YouTuber? I don't like the question because I feel that AdSense is sometimes the laziest way to make money on YouTube because you're relying on views and that can be fickle and it changes. And also ads are weird because they're seasonal. You know, sometimes you make more money, sometimes you make less. But here's what I'll say about it. In YouTube AdSense revenue alone, I make somebody's living. I make probably what my living was when I was in corporate life. And I do a lot more with sponsorship and other things there. So if I wanted to be a full-time YouTuber, I could, but it's not what I'm about. I want to build something bigger. I'm building a real business. And so that's how I make my money, is by being a creative entrepreneur and exploring every avenue that my creativity allows for me to make revenue. I mean, I have a membership course coming up. I have ebooks and e-courses.
Yeah. And kind of what you're saying is, you know, you don't necessarily want to tie yourself to one platform as well, because what if the agreement changes? Who knows what changes with YouTube?
Which happens every 3 to 6 months, and you'll see the biggest YouTubers crying about it because they're relying on a platform instead of using it as a vehicle.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, you're just using all avenues. So and then you get into, and that Wills talks about this too, sort of about copyrights and posting something, you know, whether, you know, they own it or you own it, and like all that ownership. But basically, if you're diversifying, you're not stuck in this having to sign something exclusively with YouTube because you're on multiple platforms. If you
exactly, and YouTube doesn't make you beholden to exclusivity anyway. As far as copyright, unfortunately, if people don't have a background in photography or design or advertising, most people who are in online video space and in YouTube, they use copyrighted material and they try to shield themselves with fair use, and it's not a real defense, mind you, because it's copyrighted material. It'd be no different than, Paul, if you did an illustration and you inked it in black and white, and I found that on DeviantArt and I decided to take it and color it and start selling posters, I just infringed on your copyright. I just stole your work. It doesn't matter even if I went and photoshopped the heck out of it and built on top of it for 20 hours. That's still your illustration. I still augmented your work, but not enough from the original illustration to justify me making money and cutting you out of the deal. And that's what a lot of people on YouTube will do with movies and music and things like that, and use the defense of fair use. But I would encourage them to think about it as a creator. Think about if somebody came into your house, took your sketchbook, and then built on top of that and made money. That's them taking your work. So, I mean, I understand the need to want to remix and be creative. I do believe in the online sharing economy we have, but I also think creatives have to respect each other a lot more with copyright.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and Adobe UK that were on this channel just clapped that, basically. Okay, sometimes within, so let me just read this. I haven't even pre-read it, but Raul says sometimes within the creative business there's the mindset that you shouldn't share all of your tricks. Do you think we should limit how much of our expertise we share?
That's a personal decision and a business decision you have to make, but here's my thesis on it. My thesis on it is I will not hold back anything that I don't think unless it's proprietary or unless it involves privileged information or something that involves another person. I'm happy to literally give 100% of my tricks, and there's slightly a little bit of ego in that because I'll tell you the reasoning. My reasoning is that even if you told everybody everything, how many of them are going to put in the work? Number one. Two, if you already know this and you've been practicing it for years, you have a head start in execution and a body of work. So how much catch up can they play? And then on top of that, even if they surpass you, isn't it better to know that you're responsible if you go down to being the number 3 or number 5 person, that the number 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all your disciples anyway? that it's now your school of thought, your reasoning. It's like being the greatest martial artist in the world. Like, you're going to go someday. So you start a dojo and you train the next 5 top 1 people. It's, you know, that's just how it works. And our craft is only valuable if we pass it on and we continue a legacy of high quality being out there. And it's great to be responsible for that. And I think that we also have to remember that somebody took the time and patience to teach us what we wanted to learn. How valuable would it be to us that they gave us their all and weren't afraid of competing with us? And then from a talent standpoint, I don't think you should have the insecurity. You should be so flattered, and you should also believe so much in your own unique value. You should have this. I want to preach a message here a little bit about self-esteem and about having enough bravado and just enough healthy ego to say, you know what, even if they know my tactics and techniques, they're not me. They don't have my inborn talents. They don't have my eye. They don't have my imagination. They don't have my thoughts. What I have is still uniquely valuable on its own. It doesn't matter if someone knows how I did it. My process is not what's uniquely valuable. It's my creativity. It's my experience. It's my work ethic. And it's how I make people feel about what I do, not just the end result. I think people forget that creativity is not just a process. It's an experience. Boom.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah. And you're right. Because, you know, I think that's really good. And I think it's good to kind of go back to it being your own personal choice. First of all, it's not going to really hurt you if you end up sharing. It's not, you know, people aren't going to, you know, people usually won't take the time to do a lot of things is what it comes down to.
80-90% of people won't do the work.
But at the same time, it's also, you got to be smart about it. Because I know, say, if you take, you know, Kyle T. Webster's, you know, Photoshop brushes, like, he won't necessarily, like, he's like, man, I got a family to feed. Like, this is my income. And if I show everybody how to make these brushes, first off, I don't think people will actually do it. But second off, he's like, I kind of have like, I got my family as my priority at this point. I will give so many of them away for free, but I can't, if I show you how to make them, that kind of hurts me in the end.
He's selling them, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's, well, you get like 1,000 for $9 or something.
If
like,
it's not, I would say that what he could do to hedge that is, okay, sell a master course around not just creating brushes, but creating unique assets, but at such a high price point that, one, anybody who gets it won't torrent it. Because I'm sorry, I'm really selfish. If I spend $400 on something from him or Peter Hurley, I'm not torrenting it. You'll pay $400 like I did, like, you know, pay $500 like I did for the DVD or the download. So I think that from a business standpoint, if you set a high enough price point at a premium for your master thesis or your like highest level value, then that still does it. And then the thing is that creates exclusivity. And those people, again, are an elite club. People in an elite club don't like to give access to that elite club. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. A couple things here, just real fast as I kind of just read over sort of the top 5 ways. And somebody, Israel, wants to see some workflow. But essentially, this kind of defines what video you're making, a lot of these tips.
Not to mention that they can see workflow over on my YouTube channel. I have a couple of Premiere tutorials. I'm also putting out some more. Mm-hmm. And also, they can actually see some of the stuff that I've made. They can see my current short film.
Can we... Yeah, that's good. Oh, so sorry.
You and Terry have a bunch of stuff for workflow too.
Yeah, and it's not really workflow. I think one thing that would be really interesting to talk about, Caroline asks about how to make good videos. So, and you're right. There's tutorials out there. I would like to talk about, so let's just say we've defined this. We're going to make content that shows that we're an expert. We might tell somebody else's story. We might document our own life experience if we think we're interesting enough, which is a whole other thing. And then we can talk about creating content around your community and content that converts. Like, we know the content now. Now, how do we make good videos? We don't have to go through, here's how you edit a video, but essentially there's video styles out there. Like, I noticed that there's a lot of videos that, like, There's certain platforms where you cut straight to the point, and there's lots of quick edits. And that's along the lines of making good video. You know what I'm saying?
Good video is audience specific, and it's also somewhat platform specific. Twitter, you got 140 seconds to make video. So guess what? You could still film something with your camera that's really cool if it's like 140 seconds, which is, if I'm not mistaken, that's about 2 minutes and 20 seconds, something like that. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, that's 2 minutes and 20 seconds exactly. Okay, so if you're doing a Twitter thing, you could do what they call a microfilm, and you can tell an interesting story in 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Or alternatively, it could be good for Twitter, asking people questions, filming yourself asking a question of the day and generating content and questions and the responses around that, putting that as your pinned tweet. Boom, you've got that. Instagram stories, you have an interesting life, and you're doing something in the moment and you don't want to go through a lot of trouble to film it. Instagram stories and Snapchat. Boom, you've got that. In terms of posting cool things to Instagram, you know what I like to do sometimes? I like to make time lapses that I think look cool, and I post that to Instagram. I take, whenever I get new stuff in, I just bought a really cheap camcorder to do some comparisons of camcorder versus DSLR and to film my speaking engagements. Taking a few snapshots of this in interesting ways, posting that to my Instagram and having conversations around camera gear. Boom, that's quality content for what the platform is. Doing a little video about this or doing a slow-mo around it, that's interesting content. I did a cute thing with Premiere Clip where I did a slow-mo video of my bobbleheads in slow-mo, the background music to it in Premiere Clip as a 15-second video, posted it to Instagram. Got a ton of love for that from Star Wars geeks.
That's cool. Awesome. I'm writing this down as well. So you got to make content specific for the platform, of course.
YouTube is great for putting a kind of a portfolio of your body of work and your experiences for your personal brand and for your story. I think the big underlying message that I want to give here is think about the message of who you are. My message is, hey, I want to create awesome things and share them with the world, but I want to help other creative people do that. And I do it with education and motivation. Boom. That's what I'm about. My entire YouTube channel, all 800 plus videos, it's that underlying message the entire time. The biggest challenge that I see with people, especially in YouTube, which I know is what a lot of people here care about, is that there's no underlying message or theme. There's no rhyme or reason behind their channel. They limit it just to a genre, whether it's gaming or vlogging or tech reviews, but there's no message. There's no, why do you do this and why should I care? Why should I watch?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the big thing is don't feel like you need to say, hey, I'm about X. Honestly, I don't think people know what they're about initially. But I think if they just start posting videos, then it's like sort of developing a style. Don't worry too much about it.
Most people
just create, and then it kind of happens naturally.
Yeah, most people haven't found their voice. Look, I started doing YouTube seriously, and I knew what I was more about 3 years ago. That means I was 29. Mm-hmm. I was 29. I think I figured out who I really am roughly around 27, 28, and what I cared about because of a near-death experience, honestly. I had a near-death experience that was a wake-up call to, I need to be about my legacy because one day I won't be here. What do I want to leave behind? What do I want to do with myself? What is my big goal? And so I'll start with just talking about what I know and see what happens. And then the community helped me reveal who I was. Through interacting with other people, you find out what your story is, how people respond to you. You find out who you really are, partly through just talking and sharing who you are with other people. The layers reveal themselves. They build up just like a Photoshop stack. They build up.
Yeah, exactly. Wills asks if you delete old videos.
No, not really. That's why there are 800 of them. But I do unlist videos that I think are irrelevant, i.e. or weren't the quality of this just isn't there, and I've done a better video. This is redundant. So I'll unlist a redundant video, which means if there's a link to it somewhere, someone can still get to it, or if it's embedded in a blog post, people can still get to it. But I don't really delete anything. I kind of weirdly don't believe in deleting things. The exceptions are things that are just, oh, that quality is just god awful. You know?
Yeah.
I would recommend get rid of something that you don't think represents you, especially if you don't think it represents you now. But if something represents your journey authentically, I say let it ride.
And most people know, like, if they see a video and it's like, yeah, the cuts are bad or whatever, they'll see that it was posted 5 years ago. They're like, people get it. Like, I think people get it.
Most of the time, yeah.
Rohit asks about budget for video equipment. Like, I think you've already kind of covered that earlier. Which, you know, for $300 you can get what you want, and I can.
And I actually cover that over on my YouTube channel, and I'll actually have some more videos specifically about that coming up. You know, probably this month and next month. So definitely make sure you're checking that out. I see a question here. You know, somebody had the question, if I use my main channel on YouTube as a base for my personal brand, or do I use all social media equally? I would say that I do use a good social media mix, but I wouldn't say you need to use everything. I'm not very heavy on Snapchat. Instagram is something I'm growing. I'm all in on Twitter. Like, if you want to reach me, tweet at me at Roberto Blake, and you can reach me usually in real time. If you're very interesting, I send video personal responses publicly and, you know, by name, and give you a little bit of a shout out. So that's a really great way to reach me, is to interact with me in Twitter. And I do Periscope live streaming. So I do a lot of video platform stuff because I like human interaction and engagement. I wouldn't say I use them all equally. I use Twitter disproportionately more to anything else. I probably truthfully spend more time on Twitter than I do on YouTube, believe it or not. And YouTube is my Netflix hub. It's the library of here's Roberto's content. Here's like the body of work, so to speak. I use Twitter to engage and respond to people in real time and for distribution. Facebook, I'm doing more with Facebook, but I do a lot of hanging out in Facebook groups. I use them like old school message boards. I like interacting with people there. I'm even getting ready to start my own like group mentoring thing, like a paid membership thing in Facebook for people that want more engagement. And so what else am I doing? Instagram, I want to do more with that. I want to use Instagram to challenge myself creatively more.
Yeah. And it's just interesting that people, you're right, like you just defined, you said Twitter and then you said YouTube is kind of where you are like primarily. And I think that's good because I think you can easily spread yourself like really thin otherwise. You know, it's like you mentioned Instagram. There's photographers that have built their career off of Instagram, you know, which is awesome, but they're not on Snapchat or whatever.
But what I'm planning to do with Instagram is I'm planning to batch more with Instagram, because like you do a lot of great things with like little quotes or nuggets or memes for me and stuff like that. And I'm like literally getting ready to like get people to take like photos of me and do a bunch of that, like make 300 of those. And I can just post like quick tips or motivational memes every day. So it's processed, which means it takes no time. It takes me 5 minutes a day to have an Instagram presence if I do it right. So you can spread yourself thin, but you could also just batch, prioritize, and process. And if you batch, prioritize, and process, you can be in all places at once without spreading yourself thin. You just have to upfront that. And that might take money or upfront time to do, or might take help. You have to just figure it out. I'm in a position to where I can start doing things. One thing I didn't mention is I still edit and do almost everything by myself. There are some business things where like I have a part-time assistant. I'm getting ready to get a virtual assistant where I get that stuff done. But as far as my YouTube content, right now I do everything myself. But next year, I'm getting a video editing assistant. I'm going to probably produce more content than I ever have once I do that.
Yeah, that's good. And I think most people want to get to that point. You mentioned batch, prioritize, and process. And I want to kind of talk about some of those social media tips. So let's just pretend like we have our video, we have it edited, and let's focus on that now, if you don't mind. Because we mentioned this even before our stream. Actually, we only have like 2 minutes. I think this is only supposed to go for an hour.
If they're generous enough to let us do 5, I think we can cover it.
So, yeah, social media tips, like Buffer app, for instance, .com. Using Buffer is, you know, something that we both do. Buffer
is great for batching, scheduling, and distribution. And that, like, some people don't like automation. My theory of automation is it can free you up to be more human. If you're someone who has kids, scheduling something in Buffer to go out so that it's like, okay, this is the time when I know my kids are going to be down for a nap after I pick them up. And if you schedule it for that time, it means that the minute it goes out, you can start responding. You can start saying thank you. You can start with comments. You can be engaged. Mm-hmm. So scheduling makes you more human. Using Buffer and other automation tools, I use it to make me more human, not less. A human being doesn't have to post or distribute something. A human being has to message, respond, engage, maybe do a live stream, do a Q&A, do those things. So use tools for doing technical stuff, and be human where the expectation is human. I never do automated DMs because that's a personal message. You expect a human being on the other end of that.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. Do you know much about, and I'm about to post this on the screen, using Adobe Spark, which is...
I've been getting into Adobe Spark. I think that the sweet spot for Adobe Spark is Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook more than anything, because Adobe Spark, you can do really interesting animations and simple motion graphics text without a lot of editing experience, and it's free, and it's also web browser based and mobile app based, so you don't have to have like uber tech and editing skills or anything, or even hardware. But it's really good for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, because initially all those things play without sound. So a talking head video like the stuff I usually do doesn't play out as well in a lot of those platforms unless you have some kind of intro or something else that looks like interesting without sound, or the video quality is so good that it's like, oh, this could be interesting, like, or this is legit. So Adobe Spark, I think, is valuable for those platforms a lot, and it could be a way to get attention to drive traffic to your other stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Two more. We have a couple more questions. We have, and so let me just answer Brandon's, because that's basically what Spark is. Will allow you to use your smartphone to create quick videos and pictures. But also, and you don't have to answer this. What's your main source of Rohit? I'm just going to ask you this anyways. What's your main source of income, and which platform gives you the best results?
My main source of income varies from month to month because I'm doing literally 20 things that make me money. And so any given month, one can overtake the other. There'll be a month where I'll do $4,000 in sponsorships. So that means that it's making more money than something else. But if I get a $5,000 training deal or a client on retainer, guess what? That just overtook everything else. So there's no actual answer to that. My main source of income is that I'm an engine of creation. That sounds a little pretentious, but it's literally, I don't stop, and thus I don't worry about it. What I would say is the platform that probably drives the most revenue, and I'm slightly salty about it, is, but like however you get your money is however you get your money. I would say YouTube drives the most, just because YouTube gives the most opportunity. Because with YouTube, I can make content that affects my affiliate revenue for different things, whether that's multiple web hosting companies that do like $100 payout commissions on one sale for their cheapest product. Like, that's literally one video could generate, not even from YouTube AdSense, but just because it marketed something that I believe in, it could generate hundreds of dollars in a day. I've had an affiliate marketing deal by making one YouTube video generate $1,000 in a weekend in like a 24 to 48 hour period before through affiliate marketing. That's not normal, and that's not my normal, but that just gives you an idea that don't put your eggs in one basket, and there's never any one thing, because it's a matter of how you use these things as a vehicle. What I know is next year, I'm going to dominate Amazon, or that's my plan. I'm going to attempt to dominate Amazon, because it's technically, Badu is the third largest search engine in the world. YouTube is second. Google is first. I figured out Google. I figured out YouTube. The next thing I want to figure out is Amazon and doing ebook content, because that's a product. Products make you guys the most money. So doing Adobe stock and selling resources, whether it's photos that you have sitting on your hard drive or videos that you have sitting around or design stuff that you want to make, selling it in Adobe stock and other platforms, that's a product. You keep good margins on that. Products make you the most money. That's my next big move. That's where I know I will make the most money is products. Right now, I make a lot of money off of services and I've diversified income. So that's the only way I can really answer that question honestly is every single month the answer is going to be different because I don't stop.
Cool. I like it. And it all goes back to like diversifying like you do, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's like I hang out with a lot of smart people that have built 6 and 7 figure, some 8-figure businesses. A lot of them are in the creative world. Not all of them are marketers. Not all of them are app developers. Some of them have just done really cool stuff. And like one of my personal creative heroes is Chase Jarvis, Creative Live, and also was a very successful photographer in his own right. Chase Jarvis has built something amazing around creativity, and I think that's really cool. And you can do that. And, there's a lot of money in being a diversified business and being a creative entrepreneur. Creatives, we're lucky enough to be able to make things. There's no one thing we have to settle for. We get to make things. How awesome is that? Yeah,
exactly. That is pretty cool. I like making things, and that's what I like. And we got to wrap it up here because we're already 4 minutes over, but I like the idea of actually making things and producing content ultimately. Because you could tell other people's stories. It's fun producing content and leaving a legacy like you're doing. So,
yeah, we talk about artists hundreds of years after they're gone. There's a reason for it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
The far minority of people make things.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, yeah, I mean, we scheduled this for an hour. It looks like YouTube is not cutting us off, I was concerned about that. Since we scheduled it for an hour.
Oh, actually, YouTube can go to up to 11 hours, and it doesn't automatically shut you down based on scheduling when you want your thing to end. That's just a marketing thing for it to do.
Well, and we realized that if you do want your video to, and I guess this is the deal, like if you want your video to be available on demand, so it's going to be recorded later, it needs to be an 8-hour chunk. So they process 8-hour chunks of it. But you're right. You could go for we went for so long. Photoshop Live, we went for such a long time. Like we never got cut off, really. But what would sometimes
processing takes longer.
Yeah, exactly. And, we didn't want to deal with an 11-hour video file. YouTube didn't want to. And then there's also sometimes a lag when it comes to live video from the audio to the video. You get it out of sync. So
yeah. Probably 3 to 4 hour chunks is probably the sweet spot.
Yeah. Yep. That's good stuff. So yeah, man. So as we wrap up, maybe we'll see you, I don't know, live, and we'll definitely.
I think based on the schedule, I have to double check the time, but I know the date. I think we're on again on the 20th. I think once or twice on the 20th.
What do you mean we are?
Oh, you and I doing the Photoshop Live stuff.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was on the 20th. Yeah, that's when we did it. So yeah, we'll have to take a look and see if that stuff's available. And I know, thank you everybody. This is actually our first masterclass. There's going to be another one next week, so October 18th as well. So, but Roberto, I'm so happy that you are a very number one first person. And so yeah, thanks, man.
First.
And this is it's recorded, guys. So if you're just catching it now or whatever, and Roberto Blake online everywhere, Paul Tranny online everywhere.
Yep. YouTube.com/Roberto Blake 2. 800 plus videos helping you create awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks, Roberto. I think that's it. Huh?
Yeah,
I feel inspired, and that's what you try to do. So
that's what I try to do. You guys are all amazing, by the way. You guys asked some great questions. That is tremendous, and I'm so glad that you guys got value out of this.
Yeah, definitely. All right, thanks, guys. Thank you, Kevin, Israel, Maria, Ellie, Kalina, Luisa, from all over. We're gonna go ahead and
Sarah, but I can't pronounce that last name.
That's the hardest part of our jobs, is just pronouncing names sometimes.
Yep.
All right,
Yeah,
Roberto.
that's something I'm not good at.
Found something. Gotcha. It's all good. Thanks, guys. I'm going to go ahead and cut the stream. Thanks so much. See you, Roberto. Good chatting with you, buddy.